Okay, we start with the homage to the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Okay, good morning everybody. Okay, we have been studying the Brahmanimantanika Sutta. This is translated as the discourse on the invitation of a Brahma. And just to review a little bit, in this sutta, the Buddha travels to one of the Brahma worlds, which is presided over by a Brahma, that's a kind of deity, called Baka the Brahmā. Baka means the heron or the stork. I don't know why he has this name. But the reason why the Buddha traveled to this world is because he saw that this Brahma had given rise to the wrong view that his world is eternal, permanent, everlasting, that he himself is permanent and everlasting. And he's trying to persuade people to aspire to be reborn in his world so that they could be permanently free from birth, old age, and death. And the Buddha, of course, knows that this is a wrong view on the part of this deity. And so the Buddha travels to this world to try to convince him to give up this wrong view. But this Brahma is very proud and he thinks that he can treat the Buddha as his own devotee or disciple. And he tries to urge him and persuade him to submit to him, to venerate him, and to regard him as the eternal deity. And then even Mara is called the evil one, the one who tries to keep living beings trapped in the cycle of birth and death. He takes over, he possesses one. Excuse me. He takes possession of one of the members of the assembly, and he also tries to persuade the Buddha that he should submit to Brahma and to worship Brahma and to recognize him as permanent and eternal. But then the Buddha tells Brahma that he knows much more than Brahma himself knows. And especially he tries to tell him that his world is not permanent and eternal, but it's impermanent, transient, subject to pass away. And then he tells Brahma that he knows the full extent of his rule, that Brahma rules over the one world system. But the Buddha knows that there are many other world systems outside Brahma's control, and that there are other realms of existence that Brahma doesn't even know about. So the Buddha he says that previously this Brahma used to dwell in the realm of the gods of streaming radiance. Then he passed away from that realm and he took rebirth in the Brahma world. But this happened such a long time ago that Brahma has completely forgotten about that. And so the Brahma thinks that he has been living there forever and that he'll rule forever. but the Buddha knows that Brahma is just one sentient being who is still trapped in the cycle of birth and death. Then the Buddha says that he also knows realms, still higher realms, the realm of refulgent glory, and a still higher realm called the gods of great fruit. So all of this, the Buddha says, I know, but you do not know this, and therefore I know more than you know. Okay, so that takes us up to the point where we left off last week. And in the printed edition, this is page 527, and it's the end of paragraph or section number 10. So now we come to the new material. And now the Buddha is going to go through still other things that he knows. So I'll read, then I'll explain. Okay, so the Buddha now, he's addressing Brahma, Baka the Brahmā. He says, having directly known earth as earth, and having directly known that which is not partaken of, and having directly known that which is not partaken of the earthness of earth, I did not claim to be earth, I did not claim to be in earth, I did not claim to be apart from earth, I did not claim earth to be mine, I did not affirm earth. Thus Brahma, in regard to direct knowledge, I do not stand merely at the same level as you. How then could I know less? Rather, I know more than you. Okay, so the key words here first. One key word is the word that's translated as direct knowledge or directly, having directly known. In Pali, this is abhiññāya. It's based on the verb abhijanati. And from this we get a noun, abhiññā. Over time, the word abhiññā came to acquire a special meaning, a little bit different from what's intended here. It came to stand for the knowledge of how to exercise the super knowledges or the superpowers, like the psychic powers. So that would be something like the Shentong, Chinese. But in the early literature, it doesn't really mean something like the supernormal powers, but it means jnana means knowledge, and abhi, the prefix abhi, indicates superiority. So this is a superior knowledge which directly knows the nature of things. And so this would mean especially knowing things by way of dependent origination, knowing things through the conditionality, knowing the specific characteristics of phenomena, and knowing the universal characteristics, impermanence, suffering, and non-self, and then taking any phenomena or all phenomena and placing them within the structure of the Four Noble Truths, particularly knowing all conditioned phenomena as belonging to the truth. Which of the Four Noble Truths? The first. Yeah, the first, knowing that they're all included within the five aggregates, and so therefore they're part of the truth of dukkha, or suffering. And so the Buddha says that he is directly known earth, and then he'll say the same thing with the other three elements, the water element, the fire element, the air element. And notice he says, directly known earth as earth, which means he knows it in its true nature. And he's also known that, this sounds a little obscure, he is directly known that which is not, let me rephrase this, he has directly known that which does not partake of the earthness of earth. I think that sounds better. Or that which does not participate in the earthness of earth. The text doesn't specify exactly what that is at this point. A little later, it will do so indirectly. But now comes the important phrase, I did not claim to be earth. I did not claim to be in earth. I did not claim to be apart from earth. I did not claim earth to be mine. Okay, what is the significance of this passage here? Very specific significance. You have to speak a little louder. Selflessness. Yeah, very good, very good. So all of these are different ways in which an ordinary, unenlightened person establishes some relationship between the idea of I or self and the object of experience. And so we have here actually different ways, you could say, of positing a self. The first way is claiming to be earth. If we take earth to represent the form element, what is the familiar way in which this is expressed in the suttas?
The body.
Well, body, you could say form, body, earth element, taking them all to be the same. But there's a certain way in which the idea of self is posited in relation to that. What is the familiar formula we have in the sutta? Well, these are the elements, but there's this particular phrase. Yeah, some of you have been through these classes, so you should be able to come up at once. Say it more loudly. Yeah, or it's... Well, that's the negation. But the way it's usually expressed in terms of the wrong view is he regards form as the self. Form.
Self is in form.
Wait, jumping the gun. We're just dealing with the phrase, I did not claim to be earth. So if we say earth is representing the form, aggregate of form, so the way the worldly person thinks, I am form, or he takes form to be the self. But here the Buddha is saying, in a sense, since he thinks, I did not claim to be earth, this expresses the realization, the recognition, form is not self, or he doesn't take form to be the self. Okay, then we have, I did not claim to be in earth. How would that be usually formulated a little differently, but along the same line in the sutta. Andrea?
Form is in self.
Yeah. Wait. I did not claim to be in earth. No, you failed. Okay, what is it?
Self is in form.
The worldly person thinks the self is in form, but here the Buddha is rejecting that, so this would be the idea that he doesn't take the self to exist in form. Okay, having directly known earth as earth, having directly known that I did not claim to be earth, I did not claim to be in earth, I did not claim to be apart from earth. What would this represent?
Self is outside of form.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. So actually within the four ways in which the idea of self is established, this, we could say, can correspond to two of them. Which two would those be? We've gotten two already. There are usually four. So what are the other two?
Self owns form.
Self
is separate but owns form.
Okay, that's one. So self is what possesses form. And then there's a fourth one.
Form is in the self, that's the one that's missing.
Yeah. So we could see this one is actually representing two of them. So I did not claim to be apart from earth. So this could be taken to be self is here, form is here, or earth is here. So you could conceive either the self as that which possesses form, or else you could conceive the self to be something which is great and all-encompassing, and then one takes form to be in the self. And so with this statement, the Buddha is implicitly, he's rejecting all four of these ideas of self. And then he adds two other statements. First, the first of these, I did not claim earth to be mine. Actually, this could be the one that corresponds to taking the self to own form, to possess form. So maybe the idea that, or the position, I did not claim to be apart from earth, maybe that could be understood to represent taking the idea that the self is the great, universal, measureless self and form, and everything else is within the self. And then we say, I did not claim earth to be mine. This we could take to correspond to the position, I did not claim that self is what owns the form. And then he says, I did not affirm earth. I don't know whether this really adds anything new to what has already been said. I just want to see what my notes is. Yeah, this particular passage corresponds to the framework which is used in another sutta in the Majjhima Nikaya. Anybody familiar with that sutta? Speak. Yeah, it's the first sutta in the Majjhima Nikaya. It's called, what is it called? What is the name? Yeah, the Mula Pariyaya Sutta. So you could just take a look at this, we could just take a quick look at that sutta. It's interesting that I think this is the only two places in the Nikayas where we find that formulation used. So it's on page 83. So this is the way the uninstructed worldly person thinks. He says, the untaught ordinary person who has no regard for the noble ones and so on, perceives earth as earth. Having perceived earth as earth, he conceives himself as earth. He conceives himself in earth. He conceives himself apart from earth. He conceives earth to be mine. Then he delights in earth. And why is that? Because he has not fully understood it, I say. But in the case of the Arahat or a Buddha, if you go to page 87, at the bottom page, section 51, the text says, here there is the bhikkhu who is an Arahat, one who has destroyed all of the asavas, the taints, one who is completely liberated through final knowledge. He directly knows earth as earth. Same thing as in the Brahma Sutta. Having directly known earth as earth, he does not conceive himself as earth. He does not conceive himself in earth. He does not conceive himself apart from earth. He does not conceive earth to be mine. He does not delight in earth. And why is that? Because he has fully understood it. So you can see the two are almost exactly the same. Okay, but now in this sutta, the Buddha is developing this a little bit differently because he's having this kind of competition or contest with Brahma. And so he's saying now, thus Brahma, in regard to direct knowledge, I do not stand merely at the same level as you. How then could I know less than you? Rather, I know more than you. Maybe it sounds a little boastful. Did you? Yeah. Maybe there's a microphone here.
Perplexed that how could the Brahma even have arisen to that level without having had that insight.
How he could have been reborn in the Brahma world?
Yeah.
To be reborn in the Brahma world doesn't require deep insight, but it comes through the power of samadhi or jhana. Yeah, this I explained last week, that the different realms of the different divisions of the form realm, the sphere of higher realms of rebirth, it's divided into 4 levels, basically 4 levels, and those 4 levels correspond to the 4 jhanas, 4 stages of deep samadhi. So through the power of the samadhi mind, it creates the kind of affinity with that particular realm of existence. And so if one develops very strong samadhi, but doesn't have sufficient panya or wisdom, then one can be reborn there and still have delusions and wrong views.
Thank you.
Okay, so basically the point so far of this passage is that one who is, really seen into the nature of things, who has aroused the true insight, correct wisdom, understands at this point the four elements, or at least starting with the earth element, and breaks the identification with that element as being I or mine, being the self or the possession of a self. Yeah, so I want to say what seems to be the Buddha seems a little bit boastful here, but I don't think that's his intention, but rather I think his intention is to break this conceit and arrogance of Brahma by showing that there are things that the Brahma himself, though he's so elevated in the scale of living beings, but there are things which he himself has not penetrated because he lacks the wisdom, the insight to understand their true nature. Okay, then the Buddha continues in paragraph starting with section 12. He mentions the other three material elements: water as water, fire as fire, air as air. Then he goes through different classes of beings. Again, this is just like the Mula Pariyaya Sutta, the first sutta in the Majjhima Nikaya. He's directly known beings as beings. This would be living beings below the level of the gods. Then he knows the gods as gods. Pajapati was one of the old Vedic deities. He knows Brahma as Brahma. He knows the gods of streaming radiance, the gods of refulgent glory, the gods of great fruit as the gods of great fruit. He knows the overlord as the overlord. I think this must have been another term from Brahmanism that the Buddha is using. Then the Buddha becomes very comprehensive. He says, I have directly known all as all, everything within the universe. It doesn't mean that he knows all facts, but he knows the nature of everything in the universe. And having directly known that which is not partaken, having directly known that which does not partake of the allness of all, I did not claim to be all. I did not claim to be in all. I did not claim to be apart from all. I did not claim all to be mine. Okay, this comes about because the Buddha is one who has completely obliterated what is called all I-making and mine-making. In Pali we have these terms ahankara and mamankara. Yeah, so ahankara means, ahang means I, and kara signifies making. So we can put these two words together and call this I-making, or maybe more freely egotism. The idea that there's some kind of truly existing I, which one then identifies with the things in one's experience. either the 4 elements or the 5 aggregates or the sense bases. So one takes things to be I, and then the counterpart of that is mamankara. The word mama means mine, and then again kara is making. So mamankara means mind making or possessiveness. But even maybe it's something more subtle than possessiveness, because possessiveness is a rather coarse manifestation of mind making. But the mind making, it's the fundamental idea that things can truly belong to me. And so the aim for Buddhism is to overcome or to eliminate all I-making and all mind-making. And the Buddha and the Arahats, those are the ones who have eliminated all I-making and mind-making. Okay, so now the Buddha has gone through the whole sphere of, first he takes the 4 elements. The 4 elements together represent the aggregate of form. But since form is one of the aggregates, we could say that by mentioning the 4 elements, the Buddha is taking in all of the 5 aggregates by implication. Then he goes through different types of sentient beings, through all of the level of the deities and gods, and then comprehensively he takes in everything in the universe. And basically he's saying, in regard to everything in the universe, I have eliminated all I-making and mind-making. And then he says, I did not affirm all, or I did not assert all. It's a little obscure, I have to say. In the Mulapariyaya Sutta, it's clearer. Here it said, I did not delight in all. Delight, you could say it's the activity or it's an expression of craving. When we get something we like, then we are always trying to extract enjoyment from it. Anybody have any idea about what does this mean? I did not affirm all. Okay, take the microphone.
Well, delighting in something. This is all about attachment, grasping, upadana, and which leads to making, bhava. That's like affirming. You're making a self.
Yeah.
That's what that says to me. You're affirming it.
Yeah.
So you're creating bhava, leading to birth over and over.
Yeah.
It's like a little vortex.
Yeah, okay, that's good. Yeah. Okay, I think you've got it. Anybody else have any ideas? Okay, I don't have any fixed idea that this is right, anything else is wrong.
It's just what occurred to me as we were listening.
Okay, let's go on then. I think basically your point is correct, yeah. Okay, now we come to paragraph 24. Now after the Buddha says that, oh, I see what happened. The word is missing in this edition. That's why I was confused by that which is not partaken of. It should be by the earthness of earth. Wow.
Bronte, my version is commensurate.
You have an older edition.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had used that earlier, then some people said, we don't even know this word commensurate. Okay, anyway, we come to paragraph 24. Now Brahma says to the Buddha, he says, if that is not partaken of by the allness of all, may it not turn out to be vacuous and empty for you. So this is the way I understand this statement. The Buddha has said that he knows that which is not partaken of by the earthness of earth, by the air, water, fire, and so on. That which is not partaken of by the all. Okay, when Brahma hears this, because he has a limited range of knowledge, so he thinks if there's something that is not partaken of by the allness of all, it must be nothing. Just emptiness, not in this deep spiritual sense, but it must be complete non-existence, nothing there, literally nothing there. So he's saying, may this not turn out to be vacuous and empty for you. But then the Buddha is going to speak about that which is not partaken of by the earthness of earth, by the waterness of water, which is not partaken of by the allness of all. Then he recites just 2 lines of verse. Consciousness, non-manifesting, boundless, luminous, all round. Vijnana nani dasanam, anantang sabato pabang. And then he says, that is not partaken of by the earthness of earth, that is not partaken of by the waterness of water and so on, that is not partaken of by the allness of all. So he's referring to a particular type of consciousness. It's a vijnana, that means consciousness, which is called anidasanam. So there's some a few problems in this verse. Like, first, the word anidasana. Usually it means invisible. And so this is the way the commentary explains it, that it's consciousness which is invisible. But it seems to me every kind of consciousness is invisible, no? Can you say I'm just now in a very ordinary state of consciousness, but can you see my consciousness? You see it walking around? What color is it? What shape? All consciousness is invisible, so there's nothing special in some kind of superior state of consciousness to say that it's invisible. But I found this word anidasanam occurs in another sutta, Sutta number 21. Yes, on page 221 in the book. And the Buddha is giving here a simile for how somebody with a well-developed mind doesn't become angry when he's provoked by aggressive or harsh speech. And so he speaks about a man comes along with different kinds of paint, and he says, I shall draw pictures, and makes pictures appear on empty space. Then the Buddha asked the monks, could that man draw pictures on empty space? And the monks say, no, Bhante. Why is that? Because empty space is formless and non-manifestative. The word used here, it's anidasana. Same word. So it means that which does not manifest anything concrete.
So it's like a consciousness without selfiness attached to it. You think that's a very poetic way of putting it?
Excuse me?
Do you think it's just a poetic way of putting it, using the word invisible consciousness to try to express that it's like a non-attached consciousness?
I don't think it's simply a consciousness which is without an ordinary consciousness which is without attachment. This is my interpretation, that this is a special kind of consciousness which is entered into as it's the consciousness of a samadhi, which is entered into by the Arahant, by a fully liberated person, in which the Arahant can experience Nibbana directly. Because it's described as boundless and luminous all around, on all sides.
Well, I didn't think it was an ordinary
consciousness. I mean, I can't say that.
But one is able, according to the sutras, the Arahant is able to experience Nibbana in the here and now because of the falling away of attachment. Becoming.
Yeah, but in sort of day-to-day activities, he's not actually experiencing Nibbana, except we can say that the destruction of greed, hatred, delusion is Nibbana. But there is a kind of reality, transcendent reality, which is Nibbana. And in this special samadhi, the Arahant can directly experience that samadhi. This is my understanding. And for references, I base this on a number of suttas that come towards the end of the Anguttara Nikaya, in the Book of Tens, number 6, maybe number 7, and the Book of 11s, a few suttas early in the Book of 11s, where Ananda comes to the Buddha and says, is it possible, Bhante, for a monk to enter a state of samadhi in which, though amidst earth, he is not perceiving earth, he actually goes through the 4 elements, amidst the water, fire, air, amidst the different beings in the different realms. He's not percipient of them, and yet he still perceives. Then the Buddha says that there is such a samadhi, Ananda. And how does one enter it? Here, the monk, let's see how it goes, perceives thus. This is the peaceful, this is the sublime, that is the stilling of all conditioned formations, the sabba sankhara samato sabupati patinisago, the stilling of all conditioned formations, the relinquishment of all acquisitions, the destruction of craving, and so on, nibbana. So within this samadhi, one is not perceiving any phenomena of the world. but one is still perceiving something which is nibbana. So that's the way I would understand this. But let's say it's very oblique or just suggestive, this passage. So maybe other people have other interpretations. This is the way I interpret it. Okay, let us just move on because I want to finish the sutta. Okay, now Brahma is going to try to shift. Maybe he feels frustrated here because he's lost this stage of the debate. So now he's going to, in a way, challenge the Buddha to a contest in supernormal powers to see who has more stronger supernormal powers. And so Brahma says to the Buddha, "Good sir, I shall vanish from you." Then Buddha says, "You can vanish from me if you can, Brahma." This is funny. It's a little bit like a television comedy. Then Baka the Brahmā saying, "I shall vanish from the recluse Gotama. I shall vanish from the recluse Gotama," was unable to vanish. Okay, but then the Buddha says to the Brahma, he says, "I shall vanish from you." Then the Brahma says, "Vanish from me if you can." Then the Buddha performs a feat of supernormal power such that Brahma and his assembly and the members of the assembly could hear his voice, but they could not see him. But then the Buddha, in a way, to play, maybe to indicate the significance of his attainment, he speaks a verse. The verse is translated, "Having seen the fear in being or in conditioned existence, and having seen that being or existence will cease to be, I did not welcome any kind of being or existence, nor did I cling to delight." In a way, the verse expresses the significance, but let us say the Buddha's vanishing expresses symbolically the same idea that is expressed conceptually in the verse, that by vanishing, the Buddha shows that he is able to transcend everything within samsara, whereas Brahma can't vanish from the Buddha's sight because Brahma is still within samsara. In this verse, the Buddha says that he's seen the danger in conditioned existence. Brahma still has that attachment to bhava, to conditioned existence. But the Buddha has seen the danger, the drawbacks, the defects of existence, and he's seen that whatever comes into existence will cease to be. In other words, he's seen that everything that arises changes and vanishes. Everything that arises eventually ceases to be. So because of this, the Buddha says, I did not welcome. It's actually the same verb here, abhivadi. The same verb is used in the earlier passage, I did not affirm all. It should have actually been translated the same way. I did not affirm any kind of being or existence, nor did I cling to delight. I would actually sort of paraphrase this. I did not cling to anything through delight, by taking delight in it. Because delight is, in a way, the vehicle of clinging. Okay, then when the Buddha utters this verse, then all of the Brahma and all of the members of his assembly say it's wonderful, it's marvelous, how powerful the ascetic Gautama is. We have never seen or heard of any other recluse or Brahmin who is so powerful as the ascetic Gautama. Though living in a generation or population that delights in existence, that takes delight in existence, that rejoices in existence, he has uprooted or extirpated existence together with its root. What is the root? Is uprooted existence together with its root. Yeah, exactly. We could say that delight also is an expression of, or manifestation of craving. In fact, actually this is interesting, I just thought of this. In the Mulapariyaya Sutta, the first sutta, there's a passage, let's see what it is. This is page 89, and it's section 171. The Buddha's going through this scheme of the ways that he doesn't conceive himself. So he says, the Tathagata, the accomplished one, the fully enlightened one, directly knows earth as earth. Having directly known earth as earth, he does not conceive himself as earth, in earth, apart from earth. He does not conceive earth to be mine. He does not delight in earth. Why is that? Because he has understood that delight is the root of suffering. And with being as condition, there is birth, and then for whatever has come to be, there is aging and death. So here it said, delight is the root of suffering. And in the Brahmanimantanika Sutta, it said that the Buddha has extirpated being, and all being is dukkha, together with its root. And so the root could be seen either as tanha, craving, or delight, nandi. Okay, this is a bit heavy, I know, it's not sort of entertaining. Too heavy for you? Okay.
Is nandi the same nandi as in a nandi bowl?
Is in what?
The nandi bowls. There are a lot of sculptures of nandi bowls included in Hindu temples.
I think, nandi, it's just the bull is maybe named Delight, the name of the bull.
I knew a woman in Nepal named Delight.
It's actually a common name.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even for monks and nuns, Nanda. Actually, there's a monk Nanda and Ananda, because it can have a kind of neutral meaning. It doesn't always have that loaded meaning of being equivalent to craving. But, just like, people name their daughters Joy. So it means, like, they want their daughter to be happy, so they name her Joy. Do we have a male name that corresponds to that? Joey? Yeah, so it's just like Ananda, it's just an intensification. And then there's the monk Nanda. Then the Buddha's half-sister was, I think, Sundaranandi. So it's a common name. So any questions on this passage, which is, as I said, it's pretty dense.
Okay. Is this Nandi the same, this delight the same word that we translated both as
Delight and affirm? Or at least do they have the same roots?
No, there's no etymological connection. But the word that was translated affirm is abhivadati, the verb abhivadati. It's based on speak. The root is vad, to speak. So vadati means to speak. Abhivadati gives it a stronger sense, like to affirm or to welcome. And so we have the connection between, well, the word that's used in the verse and in that earlier prose passage. It's the same verb, abhivadati. But nandi comes from, the verb would be abhinandati. But the noun form is nandi. Abhi is just the prefix. But we do get these two words, abhinandati and abhivadati, coming together in several suttas. For example, sutta number, I think it's 38. Okay, page 359. This is paragraph 30. About 5-6 lines down, the text says, engaged as he is in favoring and opposing. Or that is, we could say, affirming and rejecting, or accepting and rejecting. Whatever feeling he feels, whether it's pleasant, painful, or neutral, he delights in that feeling. That's abhivadati. He welcomes it. That's abhinandati. He delights in that feeling. He welcomes it. That's abhivadati. And he remains holding to it or clinging to it. That's ajosaya. Ajosaya, clinging or grasping it. So we get sometimes abhinandati and abhivadati in immediate proximity. Okay, let's go on, because I want to try to finish the sutta. I will finish the sutta. So now, it seems like Mara has been there, and he thinks that he's losing the battle, because now even Brahma and Brahma's assembly are, applauding the Buddha. So Mara wants to get his last shot to trap the Buddha. And so again he takes possession of a member of Brahma's assembly, and he says to the Buddha, he says, "Sir, if that is what you know, if that is what you have discovered, do not guide your disciples," here it must be the lay disciples, or those gone forth, your monastic disciples. Do not teach the Dharma to them. Have no yearning to acquire disciples, either lay disciples or monastic disciples. So now Mara is trying to persuade the Buddha, even though you are enlightened yourself, but don't teach the Dhamma to others. Don't try to guide others to their enlightenment. Then again, Mara is going to try to use using the whip and the carrot approach. So he says, before your time, and he calls the Buddha a little disrespectfully, bhikkhu. Before your time, bhikkhu, there were recluses and Brahmins in the world who claimed to be enlightened, and they guided disciples and monastic disciples. They taught them the Dhamma. And then on the dissolution of the body, when their life came to an end, they became established in an inferior body. This means that they were reborn in an inferior realm of existence. So he's in a sense threatening the Buddha. If you try to teach the Dhamma to others, you're going to be reborn in a miserable plane of existence too. And then he says, before your time, there were recluses and Brahmins in the world claiming to be fully enlightened, and they did not guide any disciples or monastic disciples. They did not teach the Dhamma and so on. And on the dissolution of the body, when their life came to an end, then they were established in a superior body. That is, they were reborn in some higher state of existence. And so now the Mara is probably, call this wagging the finger, shaking a finger in front of the Buddha. He's saying, "So, bhikkhu, I tell you this, be sure to dwell inactive, devoted to a pleasant abiding here and now. It's better not to declare the Dhamma, and do not advise or instruct anyone else." So this is, in a sense, maybe he's trying to tempt the Buddha not to take on the career of a teacher, even though this must have taken place after the Buddha had already started teaching, I assume. Okay, when Mara says this, then the Buddha, he catches Mara's number. He says, "I know who you are, evil one. Don't think he does not know me. You are Mara, the evil one. And it is not out of compassion for the welfare of others that you're speaking thus, but it is without compassion that you speak thus." Then the reason why he specifies the reason why Mara doesn't want him to teach. He says, "You are thinking those to whom the recluse Gautama, the Buddha, teaches the Dhamma will escape from my sphere. They'll escape from my grip." So the Buddha knows that Mara wants to keep everybody shackled to samsara. And then he says, "Those recluses and Brahmins of yours who claim to be fully enlightened were not fully enlightened. But I, who claim to be fully enlightened, am fully enlightened. And whether I teach the Dhamma to disciples, or whether I don't teach the Dhamma to disciples, I am such." That means I am fully enlightened. And then what is the reason for that? Because the Tathagata, that's the Buddha himself, the one who has reached the truth, has abandoned the asavas, the defilements of the taints that defile, that bring renewal of existence, that cause trouble, ripen in suffering, and lead to birth, old age, and death. He has cut them off at the root, made them like a palm stump, done away with them, so that they are no longer subject to future arising. So this is just like the palm tree whose crown is cut off. It's incapable of further growth. So the Tathagata has abandoned the taints that defile, cut them off at the root, made them like a palm stump, done away with them, so they are no longer subject to future arising. Okay, and then at that point, Mara is unable to reply, and then that brings the sutta to an end. And then the compilers explain why they gave the title to the sutta, because it began with the invitation from a Brahma. Brahma invited the Buddha to come and stay in his Brahma world, and so it's called the Brahmanimantanika Sutta, the discourse on the invitation of a Brahma. Very powerful sutta, no? Starts off a little bit sort of with a humorous touch, but it really shows what you might call the majesty and spiritual attainment of the Buddha. Okay, any questions, comments?
Do the string-entered, once-returner, and non-returner all have that unique consciousness or not?
That's kind of samadhi?
That consciousness.
That vijnana. The way I understand it, based on the suttas, I think not. I think that's exclusive to the Arhat.
Then how do they experience Nibbana?
Yeah, that's a good point. What I would say is that this is my conjecture. It's not stated so explicitly in the suttas. My conjecture is that those at the lower level have seen Nibbana, but they're not able to get such a full experience of it. But they see it, and by seeing it, they're able to see all Four Noble Truths, and with that they eradicate certain levels of the defilements. But I don't know that they have access to that samadhi. Now, according to the commentarial system, or the Abhidhamma system, corresponding to each of the levels of attainment, there is a particular kind of meditative state that one can enter, which is called phala samapatti, the attainment of the fruit. And so there's something called sotapatti, phala samapatti, the meditative attainment of the fruit of stream entry, sakadagami, phala samapatti, meditative attainment of the fruit of once returner, anagami, phala samapatti, meditative attainment of the fruit of non-returner, and arahat phala samapatti, meditative attainment of the fruit of arhatship. And it's said that any noble disciple of that particular level could enter their own particular fruitions, fruition samadhi. And in that samadhi they experience Nibbana. So this is the position that emerges in the Abhidhamma and commentaries. But in the suttas I haven't seen very explicitly any affirmation of that. The way I understand it, those at the lower levels see, they've had this experience where they can see the deathless or see Nibbana, but they're not able to enter a particular samadhi in which they can continue to experience it for an extended period of time. But have you come across anything like that? So there seems to be some, what I would call a tension here, between what we can extract or discern in the suttas and the position that comes out in the commentaries.
Does that particular consciousness have 4 other aggregates?
I would say so, yeah.
At all times?
I would think so, yeah. Because in order for there to be... In fact, there has to be... there has to be perception, certainly. Because the way it's explained in those suttas from Anguttara Nikaya, it's said that he's not perceiving earth, water, fire, or air, and so on. And yet, he's still perceiving. Sanyi hoti. So he still has sanya, which is perception. And presumably he'll have feeling and intentions. And so all the other aggregates have to be there.
There's just no attachment.
Of course there's no attachment in that.
There's just no...
Yeah.
They're just I know this isn't in the suttas, but what people will call it the bare aggregates. In other words, they're not subject to clinging at that point for the arahant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But there would be, we say, the bare aggregates, even on occasion when the arhat's involved in ordinary activities. You know, if he's taking a walk, if he's taking a meal, giving a lecture, or listening to other people give lectures, then he's aware of sounds, aware of the touch sensations. But there's no attachment or no craving, no clinging. But I don't think that in that state we could say that there's this vijnana nidasana, this consciousness which manifests nothing. I think that comes only in this special meditative state where he turns away from all of the conditioned phenomena and directs the mind to nibbana.
And he also speaks of this in the other suttas as a pleasant abiding in the here and now, that he can enter into these states for a pleasant abiding, or his arahants.
Yeah. Okay, maybe we'll end for the morning, and then after the lunch, then we can come back and discuss. Oh, I didn't even see you put those up. Do that. Okay. Oh, if Mara is such a bad character in the text, why is this evil one not dwelling in hell rather than the heavenly realm? And why are the powerful Brahmas and other bright deities unable to understand the Four Noble Truths taught by the Buddha and get enlightened? Okay, I think maybe the texts call Mara the evil one, not because he's really doing terribly unwholesome karma, like killing, stealing, and so on, but basically his task is to just prevent people from escaping samsara. So, and maybe it's just a designation, so we don't have to take it too literally. And why can't the powerful Brahmas realize the Four Noble Truths? Actually, they have the potential to realize them, but maybe they previously hadn't heard the Buddha teach. But it's said that even at the Buddha's first sermon, first discourse, there were many deities and Brahmas that were listening to the discourse, and large numbers of them did realize the Four Noble Truths and achieve different stages of enlightenment. Okay, then somebody says, regarding abhinya, the suttas list 6 successive events towards nibbana. That is, one gains vision, knowledge, peace, direct knowledge, enlightenment, nibbana. So what is the difference between knowledge and direct knowledge? Actually here I would say they're pretty much almost synonymous. Maybe abhinya has a slightly more elevated flavor. What is vision? Is peace the same as samadhi? Again, vision is the same thing as the knowledge or direct knowledge. It just emphasizes another aspect. And peace, I'd say, is not necessarily the same as samadhi, but you would say samadhi is peaceful, but this would be a kind of permanent peace that remains all the time, whether one is in samadhi or not. What is the etymology of the word vijnana? It seems it's the conjunction of prefix vi and jnana, which means something like no knowledge. Is that right? No, that's not right. Vi sometimes just gives a somewhat stronger sense. So maybe we could say that vijnana is specific knowledge, discriminating knowledge, discerning knowledge. But it's, in normal usage, it doesn't mean a higher state of knowledge, but it's a kind of awareness, specific awareness. So we use consciousness to render it. Is Mara incapable of ever getting enlightenment, like the Ichantika spoken of in the Mahayana Buddhist scriptures? That is the most base and deluded of all types of beings. As I mentioned last week, and as we'll see next week, the position of Mara, it's like an office or a status, but the being that occupies that status changes every so many years. So now one being occupies the position of Mara, but in time he'll pass away and somebody else will be reborn there. And so, maybe I used to be Mara many centuries ago. Wouldn't you just know it? And, I hope to be enlightened someday. And so I think it's quite possible that, the big guy up there, Mara, when he passes away, he could be reborn as a human being and learn the Buddha's teaching and become enlightened. It's, I think, possible. Okay, I think we'll end now with the sharing of the merits and then come back after lunch, about 12:10. Oh, I have to mention 2 things. One is tomorrow afternoon, the abbot, Bhante Dhammadipa, will be giving a slideshow. A few months ago he was in India and he took photographs of some of the cave statues and pictures in the ancient Buddhist caves of India. And so he'll be giving a slideshow tomorrow of these slides and pictures that he took. So this will be a quite excellent opportunity to see some of the outstanding Buddhist art of India. This will be in the Wuru Library at 1:30 p.m. I think it's 1:30. And then in 2 weeks, that's April 23rd, there'll be a 7-day meditation retreat here, conducted by Venerable Dhammadipa's mother. She's called Mother Shi. Is that correct name? She is a authorized meditation master. She has her own meditation center in East Malaysia. She came here last year and gave a 1-week meditation course. Last year it was actually a 5-day meditation course. But this year she'll be giving a 7-day meditation course from April 23rd to April 30th. So this would be a good opportunity if you can find the time to take a full week of meditation. Is it necessary to register in advance, or can they register on the 23rd itself?
Usually they will register in advance. Then we should arrange the accommodation and meals.
Oh yeah, they have to register in advance.
We have an online registration.
So there's online registration in English?
In English.
In English too, okay, so that's good. So you go to the BOWS, I think it's the BOWS website, and if you're interested, then you can register. Okay, so let us end with the sharing of the merits. Akasata chabumata deva naga mahitika punyantang anumodipa chiram rakanto sasanam akasata chabumata deva naga mahitika punyantang anumodipa chiram rakanto desanam akasata chabumata deva naga mahitika punyantang anumodipa Shiram rakanto mam param etavatacha mehi sampadam punya sampadam sabbe devanumodantu sabba sampati siddhya etavatacha mehi sampadam punya sampadam sabbe bhutanumodantu sabba sampati siddhya etavatacha mehi Sampadam punya sampadam sabbe sadanumodantu sabba sampati siddhya pavakupadaya vichihetato etantare satakayupapanna rupya rupicha asanya sanino dukkha pamuchantu posantu niputim. Okay, we can stand up. Okay, then we end with 3 bows, half bows to the Buddha.